What would happen if one day you started giving a batch of low-income individuals a $17,000 per year basic income?
I would see it as a jump point. It's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to step up.
Canada's about to find out whether people use the money wisely.
What kind of work do you do?
I run a puppet company, so this would ideally allow me to diversify myself such that the puppets were funded independently.
As it becomes an income inequality solutions laboratory.
Universal basic income. Why are you for it?
The more cities that can experiment doing it, the better.
Free money, no strings attached. Basic income is kind of an amazing concept. Some tech world luminaries see moving upstream, work opportunities drying up.
Our generation is going to have to deal with tens of millions of jobs replaced by automation like self-driving cars and trucks.
That's why they think governments will eventually need to step in and offer everyone some kind of basic income. We traveled to Hamilton, Ontario to meet people waiting to find out whether for them that future is now.
There
we go.
Actually, these aren't chicken wings. They're the thighs.
Oh, okay.
They're generally cheaper.
Tracy St. Martin is a working mother. Even with the financial assistance she gets from the Canadian government, she can barely make ends meet.
I run things kind of tight. I know that working a $12 an hour job is not going to get me anywhere. It's going to leave us still on partial assistance. It's still going to leave us in the same place with the same problems. I can't do that.
She's hoping to be among those selected to take part in Ontario, Canada's basic income pilot. If she's picked, her income would increase by around a third.
Have you thought about this basic income program?
It's an opportunity that if I'm less stressed, I'm going to be able to actually go and do the things that I need to do.
What she thinks she needs to do to exit the ranks of the working poor is go back to school. She dreams of becoming a counselor.
And to work with youth, as in particular foster kids who have dealt with the kinds of things that I have.
St. Martin was herself a foster child.
What grade is your daughter?
She's going into grade 2.
She has Patience. That's her daughter's name.
Patience, please close the microwave.
Now she needs some luck. Only 1,000 people are being chosen from Hamilton, a city of about 500,000 people.
I am extremely grateful for any help that I've ever had. So I would love to be able to give back and give to someone else like me.
What are you cooking?
Oh, making dinner, hon.
St. Martin would seem to be a model candidate for a basic income experiment, one that's aimed at measuring how the extra money affects an individual's health, happiness, and his or her major life decisions.
I mean, you're going to have some people who basically will get their income doubled overnight if they're accepted into this program.
Yeah, and there's going to be challenges with that, and people will have important choices to make in their lives.
Tom Cooper is the director of a Hamilton charity called the Roundtable for Poverty Reduction.
Hamilton has a large number of people who would be considered working poor.
Mm-hmm. That's right. We have 30,000 people who are going to work every single day in this city and not earning enough at their jobs to pull themselves or their families.
The idea of giving free money to citizens by way of a basic or guaranteed income isn't new. In 1962, the most famous free market economist of the 20th century, Milton Friedman, wrote, "We should replace the ragtag of specific welfare programs with a single comprehensive program of income supplements in cash," what he referred to as a negative income tax. 5 years later, Martin Luther King Jr. championed the idea.
It seems to me that the civil rights movement must now begin to organize for the guaranteed annual income.
President Richard Nixon considered introducing a basic income experiment that would involve more than 8,500 Americans, but one of his more conservative advisors talked him out of it. Basic income as a concept was pretty much finished, until Finnish politicians 6 years ago began fleshing it out. This year, 2,000 randomly selected unemployed Finns began receiving more than $600 a month for 2 years, unconditionally. Across the Atlantic, amidst rising concern over income inequality, a trifecta of tech titans threw their weight behind basic income. Bill Gates said, over time, countries will be rich enough to do this.
Pay close attention to the development of artificial intelligence.
Tesla's Elon Musk, warning that emerging technologies will create mass unemployment, said, ultimately,
we will have to have some kind of universal basic income. I don't think we're going to have a choice.
And Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg said, we should explore
Ideas like universal basic income to make sure that everyone has a cushion to try new ideas.
I mean, the reality is, people like Mark Zuckerberg, people like myself, have had enormous financial return at relatively young ages.
Zuckerberg's Harvard roommate, Facebook co-founder Chris Hughes, is devoting his time these days to promoting basic income. Remember his character from the movie The Social Network?
Or who should we send it to first?
Why?
Neil.
Well, now Hughes leads a network of mostly tech execs who endorse basic income, but with a work requirement.
If you certainly work in a job, you get paid, that's work. I also think if you're doing childcare or elder care, that's work.
If you take a broad definition of work, you don't think there are going to be a lot of people who are going to try to game and scam the system so that they don't work, so they can hang out?
So, nobody's talking about having a sort of a police force to come to verify it. I think it's quite simple.
I don't know if it's that simple. So take somebody who, let's say, is a painter and does a few paintings a month and sells those and sometimes makes a little bit of money off of that. Does that person qualify?
She made money last year. Absolutely.
But she only made $200 on her paintings last year. So that would suggest she's not that serious about it.
Sure. And in my view, as a worker, she deserves a basic income.
Hughes' net worth is reportedly around $500 million.
So then why don't you and Mark create a list and allow the first, million people to sign up, and you'll start sending them a check every month.
It's not fair. What we have to do is create a society where everybody who works is guaranteed not to live in poverty. I think that's something that folks on the right and on the left can agree with. You don't got to be in tech to think that that's a reasonable idea.
I'm all for finding ways to provide temporary help to people in need.
Orrin Cass is a conservative anti-poverty scholar. In 2012, he served as presidential candidate Mitt Romney's domestic policy director. Cass thinks the very concept of basic income runs counter to American ideals.
The answer is to actually help people find good jobs, and there are ways we can do that through redistribution as well. I think one policy we should consider is a wage subsidy.
Forgive me, but you write for the National Review, and I'm hearing you talk about the federal government giving extra money to people to supplement their incomes. What's happening here?
Conservatives are not opposed to the idea of helping lower income households by any stretch. The question is, how do you do it in an affordable way and in a way that actually pushes people towards self-sufficiency instead of creating this cushion that Mark Zuckerberg describes that you can just sit on.
From where Tracy Martin sits, giving her a basic income would benefit society as a whole.
I can live on $17 a year. I'll just watch TV all day.
Because some people, instead of being motivated, they're just going to become complacent.
Canada's program doesn't screen applicants based on factors like work ethic. To apply, you need to be between 18 and 64 years old, and for an individual, have an annual income under 34,000 Canadian dollars.
We're hoping that stabilizing someone's income at a higher level will reduce economic anxiety.
At the information session, we sought to find people who'd already gotten their applications in the mail. That's how we met Jefferson Wright.
I am in the process of applying for the basic income.
What kind of work do you do?
I run a puppet company.
I pride my business on its bigness. Don't hate me, because I'm so ambitious.
So this would ideally allow me to diversify myself such that the puppets were funded independently of me, the puppeteer.
Why aren't you just going and pursuing a more high-paying job?
Because I can't, I don't work well with people. I don't work well with others.
If you were to get the $17,000, what would the implications be for your puppets? Would there be more puppets? Would there be fewer puppets?
More puppets.
Why aren't you screening for people who are more likely to take advantage of this opportunity to better themselves?
Government policy should be, in my view, targeted at the whole population. We're responsible for the people in Ontario, and therefore a randomized trial gives you better evidence.
Helena Jazyk is the Liberal government minister who's spearheading the pilot project. She says a randomized trial provides better evidence for researchers.
Well, in this pilot, what do you think is the most important thing you're hoping to find out at the end of 3 years?
I suppose that we do have objective measures of improvement in not only health status, but perhaps things like continuing education, maybe even going back to school to get some more training. In other words, that sense of security being translated into measurable outcomes.
No work requirement.
No work requirement.
Which also means that people are free to do nothing, watch Netflix for 3 years.
Exactly. I think most people would find that incredibly boring, but...
There's some really good shows on Netflix.
Oh.
There's a lot of series.
Yeah, we've caught a few. Experience shows that a lot of people on social assistance do, in fact, choose to work.
They agree that there's some perverse incentives here.
Absolutely. I'm waiting for the evidence.
So you think there's a possibility this could fail?
Oh, yes.
All told, the trial's costing Canadian taxpayers $50 million a year. That's equivalent to about 0.5% of the province of Ontario's annual social assistance budget. We met Anne and Dennis Lizottes at the information meeting in Hamilton.
And so have you gotten the application in the mail?
I have.
Filled it out?
Yes, we sent it back in the same day.
Same day?
Same day.
So how are you hopeful that you're gonna...
Very.
Why?
Very. We have no income whatsoever now.
So how are you surviving right now if you have no money coming
We're
in?
not.
We are not
We're
surviving. We were told by Ontario Works to go to the food bank. This all just happened to us today.
Yeah.
They've been together for 37 years. Their particular circumstances are complicated. Suffice it to say, they see basic income as basically their only hope.
So what happens if you don't get accepted into this program?
If we don't get accepted,
we're screwed.
We don't know.
We're screwed.
We'll be homeless.
We're screwed.
The Lizottes remind us that the Canadians are experimenting with 3 highly volatile compounds: money, hope, and desperation.
Falling through the cracks.
Falling through the cracks.
How are you doing?
Nope. Not good. Sorry for that. Didn't need to get into all of this, but you brought it up now. This is coming out. Sorry.
We struggle, yes. I'm never looking for a handout. We have problems, but it's stepping past it.
Moving upstream, we'll see new data trickling into the basic income conversation. That's what the pilot programs in Canada and some other countries are meant to provide. They'll help researchers determine whether the basic income cushion that Mark Zuckerberg describes will help people improve their lives, or will the cash buy them mostly comfort? We're just getting started with this new series, so please share with us your thoughts and comments by email, Facebook, or Twitter.